In the late 19th century, Dayton, Ohio was a great innovation city that produced more patents than any other place in the United States, and the bicycle was becoming extremely popular. The odds of two men running and operating a small-town bicycle repair company during this time is rather high. Wilbur and Orville Wright even produced a few of their own versions of the two-wheeled modern marvel. But the odds of the two brothers solving the problem of flight nearly a decade later were extraordinarily low.
Man's age-old dream of flight becomes a reality.
Not only did the Wrights accomplish this feat, but they also discovered the physics and functions that make flight possible. Orville Wright said, "Isn't it astonishing that all these secrets have been preserved for so many years just so that we could discover them? What of all things made it possible for these two entrepreneurs, with no formal education, to become the pioneers of aviation and help the world finally achieve flight? What is it about their upbringing and location that made it possible for them to even consider chasing such a dream?" The entire Dayton area in western Ohio is full of landmarks, museums, and memorials which the Wright brothers' history is restored and remembered. Orville and Wilbur's service to the world can be seen all over Ohio. Their signature Wright Flyer is inscribed in the arches of the highway system, which runs through the heart of Ohio. Wright State University is named after the two pioneers, along with the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And even the Cincinnati and Dayton Airport have replica planes hanging in their terminal gates. But if we take a closer look at the area, we not only see the celebration of the Ohio Sons of Flight, but we also see that a lot of history was made around the region. I'll be exploring all the historic sites in and around Dayton that are significant to the Wright brothers. The Dayton Aviation Heritage National Historical Park maintains a number of Wright brothers landmarks in the region and restores the monuments and museums for the public to enjoy. After moving to Ohio in 1869, the Wright family began their new life on Hawthorne Street in what is now downtown Dayton. The site of the home can still be visited, but the original house was moved to Greenfield Village in Michigan around 1938, along with one of their original bicycle shops, as part of the Henry Ford Museum. Wilbur and Orville lived on Hawthorne Street well into their 30s, with their sister Catherine and father Milton. Their bicycle shops, which they owned and operated, were never farther than a few blocks away. By the time the two brothers achieved flight in 1903, all three family members that remained in Dayton were still under the same roof. Just a 5-minute walk away from the original Wright family home is the Wright Cycle Company just off of 3rd Street in Dayton, Ohio. The repairing and manufacturing of bicycles gave Wilbur and Orville their foundation for fabricating and building the first planes. Things such as chains, gears, and spokes are clearly present all through the flyers that the Wrights designed. Although the two brothers were fantastic engineers, they acquired their ability to be curious from their father. Milton Wright always insisted on his children being naturally curious and always searching for ways to solve a problem. The bishop, as their father was called, once said to his sons, "We learn much by tribulation, and by adversity our hearts are made better." From 1901 to 1905, the Wrights worked to solve the problem of flight while designing and testing their flying machines at Kitty Hawk in North Carolina. The winds and sand hills provided ample conditions to fly and experiment with various designs. Kitty Hawk is the location where the Wrights achieved the world's first successful manned flight in December of 1903. At Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Wright brothers artifacts and replicas are on display. This includes original cloth and propellers used on the world's first plane. A broken propeller is displayed to illustrate the damage to one of their flying machines after it crashed in 1908. Orville's plane crashed during a flying exhibition of the United States Army at Fort Myer, Virginia. Orville's passenger during the flight, Army Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, died in the crash. This resulted in the world's first fatality by plane. While Orville himself was nearly killed, he escaped with a broken limb. Luckily, there was someone to take care of Orville while he healed, little sister Catherine, and she had acted somewhat as a mother figure to her older brothers, and this time was no different. Catherine Wright, the younger sister of Wilbur and Orville, was the unsung hero of the Wright brothers. She was indeed a promoter of their work, much like their father was. Catherine, in a lot of ways, was a sort of agent for the brothers, and helped them publicly as they introduced their flyer throughout the United States and Europe. When she was informed of the crash and the injuries that Orville had suffered, Catherine rushed to her brother's side, leaving her teaching practice behind. "School can go, and my salary too," Catherine wrote to Wilbur in a letter during the time she was in Washington, where Orville was hospitalized for 6 weeks. "Little brother shall not be neglected, as long as I am able to crawl around." Traveling through the Air Force Museum allows us to see just how far the world has come since Wilbur and Orville first flew a Kitty Hawk. Their ingenuity inspired us to take to the skies like we had never dreamed of. Carillon Historic Park was founded in 1950 by Colonel Edward Deeds, a close friend of Orville Wright. Orville actually had a hand in designing the section of the park deemed Wright Hall. The Wright Brothers National Museum has more Wright artifacts on display than any other place in the world. One of those being the 1905 Wright Flyer 3, the only airplane designated a National Historic Landmark, the first practical flying machine, and what the Wright brothers considered their most important aircraft. One of the many historical significant pieces here at Wright Hall is the 1905 Wright Flyer. While visiting Wright Hall, I had the opportunity to speak with Gary Hellman and Mike Lawrence, who are volunteers here at Carillon Historic Park. Mike walked me through the wind tunnel system and the role it played in solving the problem of flight. He kindly allowed me to record our conversation during the one-on-one guided tour.
First, they built a glider, which they then took out to the Outer Banks of North Carolina to flight test it in 1901 and came back pretty disillusioned. I think even in that video, there's one of those statements where Wilbur said, "Not in 1,000 years."
Yeah.
That was after that. That was after that event they were out there, and it just,
They thought it wasn't possible.
whoa, this is not getting it. So of course, then they had to develop their own wing shape, and this is a key tool to that. So is the wind tunnel. So this is a replica of it. So, but they, of course, thinking about how do we, we're going to need a way to test different. We can't keep building gliders and with different, and take them outside. We have to have something that is repeatable. We can get a lot of data in a relatively short period of time. Try to get at
Spend so
this.
much money and time.
Oh my goodness, yes. So the first thing,
Using the wind tunnel to construct different types of small-scale wings against the wind helped advance their understanding of aerodynamics decades forward. After the tour, Mike pointed me in the direction where the legendary Wright Flyer 3 is housed. Inside of Wright Hall, just below the first level floor, you can see the original 1905 Wright Flyer. About 85% of it is original and has been restored. The plane sits beneath the floor level of Wright Hall, just as Orville had imagined it. As we walk around the plane, it is easy to understand and admire his vision for the final resting place of the machine. Although the Smithsonian Institute holds the original 1903 Wright Flyer, the first in flight, Wright Hall holds the original 1905 Wright Flyer, the more practical airplane. Once I finished observing and appreciating the plane with Mike, I then followed Gary to view more of Wright Hall. Gary gave me a fantastic tour of the Wright Brothers Museum and spoke of all the artifacts that are on display.
A lot of the Wright Brothers materials is spread out, obviously. Greenfield Village has this original building, their one original home. And they have one of the bicycles, original bicycle. We have two of the bicycles here. And then the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia has the original balance systems that measured the lift of airfoil and the ratio of lift and drag. And so the actual artifacts are really spread all over the country. And I've even been out to the Boeing Museum out in Seattle, and they have original Wright Brothers stuff. But it's normally for when they were demonstrating the airplane and trying to get it sold.
So everyone's kind of got a piece of it and taken it. And
Yeah, the big thing is we have the airplane here, and it's considered the world's first practical airplane. It's a National Historic Landmark. It's 80% original parts, and we have some of the parts that were broken that should have been in there. Whereas the first airplane in 1903, it's in the Smithsonian today, but it's only about 30% original.
right.
And that airplane only had 4 flights, and it was all straight and level. And the last flight was less than a minute. So it proved things, but our airplane here, it was the one that really made flight practical. And so this is the thing. If you're going to have any artifact of the Wright brothers, that's it.
This is the one.
This is the thing you want.
It was great to meet the volunteers within Carillon Park, and it was especially nice to witness their enthusiasm about Wright Brothers history. Orville Wright had a hand in constructing Wright Hall, though he would not live to see it due to his passing in 1948. Wright Hall would open in 1950. Carillon Historic Park offers lots of Wright Brothers history, and I continued visiting the sites. Next up, the Wright Cycle Company. One of the buildings connected to Wright Hall here at Carillon Historical Park is the replica of the Wright Cycle Company, where the Wright brothers would have worked on and built their own bicycles. The shop is set up just as it was in the early 1900s. It showcases tools, tires, and even displays copies of their newspapers from when they were a paper pressing business. Just being present at the replicated workshop makes one feel as if they are traveling back in time. Just a few miles south of Carillon, we took a shuttle to Hawthorne Hill, in the beautiful town of Oakwood. Hawthorne Hill was built by the Wrights in 1912, with the idea of housing and entertaining future guests such as Charles Lindbergh, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison. The large home was designed by none other than Wilbur and Orville Wright, with the intent of being a large home for their family to live in together. Orville's personal study still remains just as he had left it once he had passed in 1948. While both brothers did help design this beautiful home, unfortunately, Wilbur would not live to see nor stay in Hawthorne Hill due to his passing in 1912. Orville would pass decades later in 1948. Neither brother ever married or had children. Thankfully, Wilbur and Orville had many nieces and nephews. These family members would continue the Wrights' legacy once the brothers were gone. Woodland Cemetery is the final resting place of the Wright brothers. Their mother Susan, father Milton, and sister Catherine are all within the Wright plot, which sits atop of the cemetery's grounds, overlooking Dayton, Ohio. Visitors from all over the world come to pay their respects to the pioneers of aviation and marvel at the significance the family has had on history. people of Dayton have the opportunity to take a trip to the past while observing the origins of flight and really understand how their backyard was a playground for these two aspiring brothers. I believe that the majority of the population is unaware of the actual history of Dayton and tends to associate the Wright brothers' names with other distinctions and often misunderstands their work and significance. But if you look a little closer, you will find that the Wrights have been here all along, and their mark on history will forever be traced back to Dayton.